Caitlin Doornbos, ladies and gentlemen, joins us on this segment for her exclusive talk. A very acclaimed journalist who had flown in from the US and had covered all these talks in extreme, comprehensive and a very elaborate, pleasant manner. Very warm welcome, Caitlin. I'm very pleased to have you on the program once again. You've been with us, I think, last week or last week, exactly a few days before you had flown back. So, Caitlin, very warm welcome. I just want to know that what's the latest regarding Iran and America, because Iran has sent out a fresh set of proposals to President Trump. And how is it being seen in the White House? And also, do you think this is a very pressing issue politically for President Trump? Because he seems to be under great heat for this Iran war that, he's got the USA into.
Right. The latest is just that he is reviewing this 14-point plan that came from Iran. The details are few about what is actually in the plan, but from others reporting, it sounds like they're not even getting to nuclear or uranium issues until another round of talks that could potentially happen after the U.S. makes a bunch of concessions. I think it's important to realize that the president is not going to give up his leverage, that is the Strait of Hormuz and the blockade and his, kind of iron fist, without getting what he wants, which is Iran giving up its enriched uranium and its nuclear program. And so it's still a standstill. We went from the standstill while I was in Pakistan, waiting for talks to happen, and now it's just, I think Pakistan behind the scenes is doing a lot to communicate back and forth, but Iran is going to have to come forward with a real proposal in order for the president to make any sorts of determinations. So,
Caitlin, you must have come across this statement from Iran whereby they say that President Trump needs to come down, or he needs to tone down his aggressive tone and tenor. This will be the starting point of any kind of negotiations in future. Do you think President Trump should be doing that? I mean, he's very aggressive and Iran doesn't seem to be very happy about it.
Well, I can't advise the president, but I can speak to him, and he's not going to back down. He's not the type of person who is going to go out quietly. But then again, neither is Iran, right? If Iran was backing down and being quiet and coming to the table with real proposals, then maybe we would get somewhere too. So I think it's important not to put a double standard there for the U.S. president. But again, I mean, diplomacy is diplomacy, and you have to have, quiet talks that we are not even privy to that probably sound a lot different than what you see on Truth Social. So again, that is that role that Pakistan is playing, is trying to take the boisterous two sides and trying to make some kind of a agreement between the two of them.
Yes, indeed, Caitlin, this is exactly what the Iranian side suggests. All those posts by President Trump on Truth Social, they seem to be taking it in a very negative stride. And they say they're very aggressive in nature. Also, I came across a few critical posts, about President Trump from many Republicans, and, the recent criticism that he did on Ilhan Omar as well. Could you kind of help me make sense of it all? Is there a political cost that President Trump may have to bear in days to come, particularly in the midterm election?
I'm not a domestic political reporter, so I can't get into really details on what is actually happening electorally when it comes to this issue. But I can tell you that just in general, some people support the war, some people don't. And it's an issue that people here in America do discuss frequently.
And Caitlin, is there a possibility for any kind of war to restart? Because President Trump in his latest statement did not rule out the possibility of a re-emergence of the same kind of war that we were into.
Yeah, it is incredibly important that people realize that the U.S. still has its military presence in the region. It still has the capabilities to go back to war. Iranians need to take that seriously. All of the Middle East needs to take that seriously, because he's not just going to pack up and walk away. Very much so. He has the option and was briefed as recently as last week on what he could do if he wants to go back to war. So while he has repeatedly said diplomacy is his favorite way to go,
Right.
he's not afraid of warfare.
And also, because do you think Pakistan is the only factor which is kind of holding back President Trump in terms of restarting a war? Since of course, you've also said this, and President Trump has also not ruled out the fact that he can re-enter a war. Is Pakistan the only factor which is holding him back?
I don't think Pakistan is holding him back. I think that would be a really egregious thing to think of as in terms of what Pakistan is doing. But I mean, I think certainly Pakistan is a factor in maintaining peace.
Yes.
Now, I think that
by holding back, I meant about the ceasefire, Caitlin, because I meant to refer the ceasefire, because Pakistan is constantly trying to urge both parties for a ceasefire and for the ceasefire to continue, you know, for a lit time. So this is what I meant.
Sure, but it's not just Pakistan. I mean, other people are also on peace in the region. I mean, it's a tough issue, right? It's difficult to solve a war, but ultimately, did he achieve his objectives yet? He doesn't think so. So it's going to have to be, you know, I just think the threat of military pressure needs to be taken more seriously, and not to have an assumption that this will all just go away.
So this needs to be taken seriously by the Iranian side, you suggest, and also could you elaborate on the fact that obviously the war has had an impact, and especially an economic one, particularly when we talk about the Brent crude, which is soaring high every other day. The region has had some very adverse effects, and I believe the effects are also showing in the US. So could you also kind of elaborate and assess the economic cost of war for the entire country, for the entire world?
That's not what I do. I'm sorry. I can't. Unfortunately, that's out of my realm of expertise. But gas prices are high, and that does affect people's moods about all of politics. I think you can't deny that.
Absolutely, yes, that's correct. Also, Caitlin, I'd like to know from you, because have you been in touch with Pakistani leadership on the matter ever since you've flown back to the US? Is there anything that you could share with us regarding that? I mean, is Pakistan continuing to make its mediation efforts? Are you privy to any details, or are you in touch with any officials on the matter?
I do have sources in Pakistan that I've been speaking to, and everybody's very positive about the way that talks are going, and they have a lot of hope that these things could come through. I think the last proposal did mark some positive change. Iran was at least willing to discuss the issue of nuclear eventually, but we just have to bring that goalpost a lot closer. So that was something that the Pakistani sources that I've spoken to were hopeful about, but also they largely are staying very quiet. And I think that is deliberate and strategic, because they cannot show favor to one side or the other. Again, Pakistan's role as mediator hinges on the fact that both of the countries trust them. And so it's very difficult to get information out of those Pakistani sources. I'm sure you understand.
Yeah, of course, I do. And yes, I can very well relate to what you just said, that Pakistan has kept quiet about the matter. And indeed, I believe, yes, this is how a mediator should be, as you two have identified. Thank you for speaking to us, Caitlin, on the matter.
Thank you.
It was a very pleasant talk, and I must say that I should have you, and I would request you be on board with us in the future weeks too, regarding the matter. नाज़रीन, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका भी देखने का. अल्लाह हाफ़िज़.